Recently, I've decided to take on Skyrim yet again, and decided to do things a little bit differently. I was enjoying my time as a Warlock in Baldur's Gate 3, throwing Eldritch Blasts at people, but the combat just felt a little too slow. So I thought to myself, what if I took Eldritch Blast Warlock from BG3 and put it in Skyrim? And honestly, turned out pretty well. So I'm going to go through and sort of nerd out with you and give you the build guide that I've been working with, explain some of the mods that I'm using to create this playthrough, and if you're curious about more gameplay or other mods used to create a sort of witchy atmosphere, then you can take a look at some of the other videos that'll also be on the channel. But with that being said, let's get into how I built this character, shall we? So, let's pop back to my character, and you'll see I have a pair of Eldritch Blasts. This is going to be the primary use of this character, of course, the main things I was going for. So if I go to my Destruction tab, you'll see I have Eldritch Blast right here. Warping Blast that deals 27 raw damage. If a target dies, it'll bind their spirit for 30 seconds. Now, this is a part of the Triumvirate mod pack. So this will add a bunch of different spells and a bunch of different play styles. One of my other favorites is Ghost Walk. I'm going to be showcasing it to you on the Gloomstalker when I get there eventually, one of the other builds I'm playing. Basically, it lets you go invisible and then do one action, and then you'll snap back to your spot. So essentially what I would do is I would go invisible, cut someone's throat with one of my other mods, and then I'd teleport back immediately out of the fray. So one of my favorite mod packs across the board, it just adds so much cool stuff. So Eldritch Blast is going to be part of the Warlock Triumvirate pack. So you'll see that binding their spirit effect there. When I kill something with this, my hands will glow, basically. And it'll amplify whatever other conjurations or summons you want to use. In this case, I'm not using any, so I'm just getting cool glowy hands whenever I kill a wolf. But if you want to go down that path and do conjuration and whatnot, you can do that as well. Now, what this looks like is actually pretty cool. I will just show you that very quickly. Dual cast. I don't have dual cast unlocked on this character, I don't think, but the dual cast isn't too bad either. The only issue I found is that its targeting indicator is slightly off with my smooth cam targeting indicator as well, which makes things a little bit dicey when trying to kill things at long range. And it also, unfortunately, has a range cap. You'll see that that fella has a range cap. If I can get the show back up. Like so. So you're not going to be going much farther than that, which is a little bit unfortunate, but that means you'll need to add extra things to your arsenal, such as a Blood Seed, which is one of the vampire abilities from Sacrosanct, because I'm also a vampire lord on this character. So Blood Seed will shoot a long-range projectile that if you hit someone will bleed them, basically. So, jagged bone shards growing in a living or undead target, dealing 8 magic damage for 10 seconds. I was trying to create a sort of World of Warcraft type warlock mixed with a Baldur's Gate 3 style warlock. So this is my sort of Curse of Agony, right? I was thinking in one hand I have Eldritch Blast, on the other hand I have a Warlock Curse doing either some kind of damage, some kind of slow, something along those lines. So that's where I opt for Blood Seed in this case. I was using Dragon's Teeth originally, which I also think is really cool. This ability, oh, it just looks fucking cool, doesn't it? Like, look at that shot, man. I love this ability. A lot of fun. When I start messing around with fire mages and what have you, I'll definitely be checking in more with that. And then, of course, I have the other vampiric stuff as well. Strangulation does a lot of damage, but this is, like, range capped, unfortunately. Vampiric Drain, pretty standard. And then you've also got the Vampire Lord stuff, like Blood Cauldron for mana and what have you, although I wouldn't recommend using these. And the Vampire stuff for sucking people off to make sure you don't die. But yeah, big fan of that style. Shouts-wise, don't have anything too particular yet. I was going to be using Drain Vitality, but I didn't find the second part during this. And the most important stuff is really the alteration spells. So I'll cover these really quick, and then I'll go into the skill tree and give you that little explanation with a little bit of the basic stuff for enchantments and whatnot. But the really fun things come from Akado's Recital and Spell Twine. Now, I don't know what mods these are from, necessarily, but I believe this one's a Apocalypse, and this one may also be Apocalypse. I'm not sure on that, but I know at least Akado's Recital is. So this is one of the coolest spells I've ever used in like the entirety of gaming. So basically what this does is it will store the spell in one of your hands, and cast it for 0 mana when you enter combat, up to 3 spells. So you can have a Flame Cloak stored, a Dragon Flesh stored, and then you can also have, like, say, Soul Cloak stored, or Regeneration, or Healing, or something. And then you walk into combat, and you just snap your fingers and become a god. I'm looking forward to doing that when I decide to do the Master Mage that I'm going to put together, basically just upgrading this character and making it even better. I want to see what happens when I add all the really cool overlapped effects and just make my character into just a walking menace, basically. So with this, I have it set up for Iron Flesh to auto-cast this, but that changes a little bit down the line. Oak Flesh and Iron Flesh can be auto-cast through Akado's Recital. And then I also have Windwalker as well for movement speed. This isn't auto-casting, but some of my other stuff, like Soul Cloak that I was talking about earlier, will be doing the fancy little auto-cast. And then I have Spell Twine. This will bind a chosen effect to a spell in your other hand, kind of the same way that Akado's Recital worked, but it will trigger whenever the spell is cast. So in my case, my Eldritch Blast, for example, will make it so I heal equal to my alteration level, which is beyond stupid and one of my personal favorite things. You can also bind up to 3 spells, so my Blood Seed, my Eldritch Blast, and my Long Stride are all enchanted in my Spell Twine. So I have heal equal to alteration level, heal equal to alteration level, and then on my Long Stride, I also have increased movement speed, because Long Stride lets you go very fast, right? So couple that with the Windwalker that I was talking about earlier, and you pop your buff, and you don't have to worry about survival mode or anything along these lines anymore, because we are fucking out of this bitch. So, big fan of that. I would also suggest doing the Spell Twine falling or cushion or whatever it is. I have speed because I want to live on the wild side, but you will run off the edge with Long Stride. It just hasn't happened to me yet. But when it does, I'll be cursing myself for not taking reduced fall damage from that. Alright, so let's get into the actual skill tree itself. I'm ready to level up, but that's kind of whatever. In Pickpocket, I am using Vocrenator, just Vocrenator, if I remember correctly. There's alternations, Vocrenator and Vocrenator Black, but it combines both Vocre, which is a perk overhaul, and Ordinator, which is another perk overhaul. It puts both of them together and smashes the skill tree into something semi-functional, provided you can get the fucking thing to work in the first place. So, I will be having a culmination of extra perks, basically. To start off, I always go for 1 point in Pickpocket Mastery. This requires like 5 points and gives you 50 free carry weight, so that's always really nice. I then also have Speech and Alchemy. I have 52 Speech, since my necklace has like plus 16 free Speech. Pretty great. Then I have the Speech Mastery Basics. I normally go about making a bunch of gold on the start of the character, grab a bunch of stuff off of everybody, and then you put your first point in Speech Mastery, then you just sell everything, and you have a much better start to the character to be able to get yourself rolling. Then in Alchemy, I power leveled to 30 so that I could get Experimenter, and then I ate pretty much everything in my backpack and paralyzed myself. So I highly suggest you do the same thing, just to unlock it all from the get-go, upgrade your potions. She's going to be crafting healing potions and mana potions and all whole shebang, right? Then we come into Destruction here, and of course you want to get the basic Destruction Mastery for just flat damage, and Destruction spells are more powerful per level of Destruction. Now, important thing to note, Eldritch Blast said, if you can recall, what type of element did it do? It did raw damage. The reason for that being noteworthy is these are all different types. Shock spells, frost spells, fire spells, right? None of that will apply to Eldritch Blast, except for raw power. Destruction spells that do not deal fire, frost, or shock damage are 10% more powerful. So you basically want to aim for anything that's like just neutral damage increasing. So raw power being the exact showcase of that. Destruction Mastery doing the same thing. Obviously, I would have gone for dual casting if I wasn't using a curse in my other hand. And then we're going to come over to Alteration. This is where things get really fun. Alteration Mastery, Mage Armor, Protection Spells get a lot better. Mikado's Preparation, since it's all themed together, which makes it so when entering combat, automatically casts your armor spell for you, so you can then get a slot back on the Akado's Recital, so you can get even more spells and even more free shit and blow things up. It's going to be hilarious when I eventually add on pretty much everything else. So, that is my very early start to the character. If you guys do want me to take this on a little bit further, maybe push it to level 30, 35, I'm not too sure where I want to end these builds just yet, nor am I too sure how much of them I want to play particularly. It's going to be a little bit of feeling this all out, but do let me know what your guys' thought process is with this, if you're enjoying the Skyrim content, and what else you want me to do with it. Also, the final thing to round off this character, just to show you, I should have covered it very early on, but I create the fact that I'm playing a Dungeons & Dragons style character with one of my options in here, the Apprentice Stone. Spells you cast are either 50% more effective or 50% less effective than intended. This makes it so I quite literally have a dice roll on every single Eldritch Blast. I absolutely love it, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. Into my enchantments very quickly, I'm using some modded gear, so anything that can give you destruction spells cost less, magicka regeneration. I mean, in this case, magicka doesn't really matter, since it also makes your novice spells free, the Sorcerer's Stone. Or the Apprentice Stone, sorry. Where is it? Your novice spells cost no magicka, and all other spells cost 15% less. And your Eldritch Blast is a novice spell, meaning it is completely free. So you can just spam this bitch like a real cantrip and blow things apart. That is going to be the end of this build video. The only other thing really to cover is just my enchantments, but it's all just carry weight, and then whatever modifiers you can get that are just more damage with spells. I don't know if this will even work, to be honest with you. It says sneak attacks and spells. I haven't done the math. I'm not going to go and whack someone with it to really figure it out. I'll just put it on and hope, right? And that's pretty much what I suggest you guys do as well. Anything related to just core spells, enchant yourself that way. Maybe do some resto loops if you need to make it viable, or modify some game files, whatever the fuck you want to do. It's your world, and this is how I operate mine. Thank you guys very much for listening. Let me know your thought process on the entire ordeal down below, and I shall see you in the next one. Take care.